Alaikum dear students, last time we read up to prolonging my fast even a moment more. Now, the night came on slowly, a night of fog that made me rigid with cold. Soon it began to rain, a fine penetrating downpour blown about by a brisk gusts of wind. We descended by way of a glassed skylight over a stairway. How shabbily the street appeared! Here there was none of that pleasant heat of the sun, the roofs gleaming white, where we had languished so deliciously. My paws slipped on the greasy pavement. I thought sadly of my 3 blankets and my comforter. No sooner were we in the street than my friend, the old Tom, began to tremble. He crouched down and crept craftily along the house wall, telling me to follow quickly behind him. Arriving at a doorway, he lost no time in hiding himself, simultaneously purring with satisfaction. When I asked him what was going on, he said, "Did you see that man with the basket and the hook?" Yes. Well, if he had seen us, we would have been caught and roasted on a spit. Roasted on a spit? I cried. The street is no place for us. You cannot eat, but you can be eaten. Meanwhile, rubbish was being put out in front of doors. I rummaged through it hopelessly. 2 or 3 skinny bones that had been dragged through ashes made me realize just how succulent fresh meat can be. My friend, the Tom, pawed through the garbage with enormous artistry and made me do the same all the night long, examining every paving stone without the least sign of hurry. After nearly 10 hours of rain, I was shivering all over. Stupid street, unless useless liberty, how I missed my prison. In the morning, the Tom, noticing my shaky state, asked in an odd voice, "Have you had enough?" "Oh, yes," I replied. "Do you want to go back home?" "I certainly do. But how can I find it?" "Come on. The morning I saw you come out, I knew that a fat cat like you is not cut out for the joys of liberty. I know where you live. I'll show you to the door." So now this cat is feeling very cold. This fluffy cat who used to sit in a prison with comforter and 3 blankets, now she is feeling very cold and she is regretting on this liberty that she should not have ran away from that home, from that very comfort, from that very prison. So that night came on slowly. The night came on slowly means the day was long enough. A night of fog. Night of fog means it was very cold. That made me rigid with cold. So rigid means hard, okay? Soon it began to rain. So it was raining. A fine penetrating downpour. Penetrating means very strong rain was blowing with the gusts of wind. The brisk means fast, okay? Fast gusts of wind. No, brisk means slowly, okay? We descended by a way of glassed skylight over a stairway. So descended means to move down, okay? By way of glassed skylight. Glassed skylight means it's a glassed roof from where the light penetrates inside the room, okay? Roof बना हुआ होता है glass का, तो उसके through light penetrate करती है. So they descended over a stairway from a stairway. How shabbily the street appeared. So street was very dirty. It was shabby. Here there was none of that pleasant heat of the sun, the roofs gleaming white where we had languished so deliciously. So this was very shabby street. So it was not that heat of the sun, the roofs on which we were staying. There was no heat of the sun. It was very cold. There were no roofs that were gleaming white, where we had languished so deliciously. Languished means to be forced to stay somewhere, where we were forced to stay on that roof that was gleaming white with the sun. My paws slipped on the greasy pavement. So the pavement means through on which you walk, okay, that path. So it was very greasy and my paws slipped on that. I thought sadly. So she was dreaming of her comforter and of blankets that she had in her prison, that she had in her home. No sooner were we in the street than my friend, the old Tom, began to tremble. So both were trembling with the cold. We were no sooner means we were very quickly on the street. No sooner were we in the street than my friend, the old Tom, began to tremble. So what's the meaning here? No sooner were we in the street than my friend, the old Tom, began to tremble. So we were quickly on the street and this old Tom, my friend, began to tremble with the cold. He crouched down. Crouched means जब आपको ठंड लगती हो तो आप ऐसे क्राउच करते हो, ठीक है. सो आप आर्म्स दो ऐसे बंद रखते हो, तो वैसे ही इसने क्राउच किया. एंड क्रैप्ट मीन्स टू मूव स्लोली सो दैट यू आर नॉट नोटिस्ड, ओके, so that you are unable to notice. So he crept craftily. Craftily means very artistically, okay, along the house wall. So he crept carefully along the house wall, telling me to follow quickly behind him. And he told this tomcat, told this fluffy cat to follow him accordingly, okay. So when they arrived at a doorway, he lost no time in hiding himself, simultaneously purring with satisfaction. So when they arrived at the doorway of the house, so he lost no time in hiding himself, means he quickly hided himself and he was simultaneously purring with satisfaction, means he hided himself as well as he was purring. Purring means to meow, okay, meow, when he was the sound that cat makes, purr, with satisfaction. When I asked him what was going on, he said, "Did you see that man with the basket and the hook?" So when I asked him that what he was doing, he told me that, "Did you see that man with the basket and the hook?" क्या आपने उस आदमी को देखा? No, the cat, fluffy cat, tells from here, "Yes." Well, if he had seen us, we would have been caught and roasted on a spit. So he is telling him, if he had seen that this man had seen us, we would have been caught and we would have been roasted on a spit. Roasted on a spit means cooked, okay, we would have been cooked. Roasted on a spit, I cried. Oh, fluffy cat, the cat who was at her home. The street is no place for us. Cannot be eaten, but you cannot eat, but you can be eaten. So you cannot eat, but you can be eaten. There is danger now, okay. Meanwhile, rubbish was being put out in front of doors. So rubbish was being, the people were there were this rubbish outside the house. I rummaged. Rummaged means searched untidily and carelessly. So she searched over there and hopelessly. So ऐसे paws के साथ पंजों से. So with the help of paws, she began to rummage all this garbage and all. 2 or 3 skinny bones that had been dragged through ashes made me realize just how succulent fresh meat can be. So there were 2 or 3 skinny means thin bones that had been dragged through ashes. Dragged through ashes means so they were very dirty. They were dragged through ashes and 2 or 3 skinny bones that had been dragged through ashes. Dragged through ashes means maybe they have been. So 2 or 3 skinny bones. She found now 2 or 3 skinny bones there that had been dragged through ashes. That made her realize that this could have been a very juicy and fresh meat. Okay, so that was eaten by a human being, but that made her realize that this could have been a very juicy and fresh meat, because she was used to eat fresh and juicy meat. okay, at her home, and now she has to eat those remains of that juicy and succulent fresh meat. Okay, we will stop here. Tomorrow we will continue again. Till then, stay at home, stay safe, take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.